Hey there, you maniacs. It's your main man, Mr. Bob Brown, coming to you live from Pittsburgh, PA, right here in the BBTAS studios. I'm also known as Mr. Dark Matter out there in the podcasting world. You can find me at the TPN, that's the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here, baby. Also, remember to go to bbtas.com and check out all the goodies that I have for you. In some shape, form, or manner, reach out to the open source community and find somebody to support, because in some shape, form, or manner, the open source community has supported you, even if you don't realize it. So throw a couple dollars into the pot for whatever open source community that you can find, or whatever program that you may like. In any case, a little bit of background. I am from the Windows world, decided to wrap my mind around this most wonderful operating system known as Linux, and I decided to use Ubuntu as the flavor of choice. And that's what we're going to move on from here. Now, on the last episode of this Journey 13, we were talking about some simple commands. We talked about sudo and apt-get and a lot of other things. Feel free to go check out that video. Now we're going to move on. We're going to wrap this kind of together. We're going to bring this together. And how are we going to do that? We're going to make something useful. What is that going to be? That's going to be LAMP. We're going to install LAMP, and then we're going to install WordPress on top of that. That way, this will be sort of like the beginnings of a web development tool. This is something cool that you can do with Linux. And this is something cool you can do with the Ubuntu flavor of Linux. Of course, you can use other flavors of Linux, but Ubuntu is being my choice, okay? So what you see in front of you right now is a couple commands that we're going to be using all through this particular video, and there will be some others. So we're going to be doing sudo to update. We're going to use sudo to install. We're going to use sudo to run a program. We're going to use sudo not only to run a program, but to create a file inside of a directory. We're going to be restarting the Apache server, and we're going to be using it to get the PHP Myadmin as well. Let's go ahead and jump down into the next slide. What I have here is task, and I have about 4 tasks all together, 4 or 5. And what I did was I broke it down into these different tasks so that we can kind of like not get overwhelmed. And I'm just going to break it down one by one, and we're going to go through these tasks, and at the end of it, we'll have LAMP installed as well as WordPress. So what is task 1 telling us? Task 1 is saying that we're going to be doing an update. We're going to be installing task cell. We're going to be running task cell. We're going to install the LAMP server, as well as create a MySQL database password. And then we're going to check to see if this all works by looking at the local host. Please go check out the video before this if you don't know what task cell or any of that is. Without further ado, let's bring up the Ubuntu flavor and let's get ready. So what I would like you to do is start up Firefox, okay, and have Firefox ready. The next thing, and I'm just going to minimize that, have Firefox ready. Next thing, we're going to go to Application, Accessories, and down to Terminal so that we have our terminal tool nice, open, and ready to go, all right? One other thing that I want to show you before we go any further, I want to go to Places, then down to Computer, and then from there, we're going to go into the file system. I'm going to double click into the file system. I'm going to navigate downward to find a folder or a directory called var. I'm going to double click, and notice that inside of that directory there is yet more directories, but there is a directory that is not in here right now, and that is the www directory. I'm going to minimize that and keep that down there for right now. So let's start off. First off, I'm going to do a sudo sudo. Sudo, what do I want you to do? I want you to use the advanced package tool -get, G-E-T. And what do you want me to use with that? I want you to update the system. So I'm going to write sudo apt-get update and hit enter. It's now going to ask me for the password. Why? Because the gatekeeper of root says, you want to use root? You got to tell me the password. So it's all like, if you want to use the power of root, you must tell me the password before you can go any further. And I'm like, okay, all that. I'm going to go ahead and push my password in. Now give me the power of root. And it says, yes, you now have the power of root because you knew the sacred password. And I'll go ahead and hit enter. And there we go. We're updating. So we already updated. That was cool. Now, what was the next thing we're going to do? The next thing we're going to do is install a program called task cell. So I'm going to use sudo, use the power of sudo to do what? I want you to apt-get, and get what? I want you to install. Install what? I want you to install task cell and hit enter. Now it's going to go ahead and do that and ask me permission to do this. So I'm going to hit Y for yes and hit enter, and we'll continue on to get the program called task cell and then install it on this particular computer that we're looking at right now. Okay, awesome. That is done. Now what we need to do is tell it that we want to run that program. So I'm typing in sudo space task cell. Hit enter. It's now going to launch that program, and it will do that here in just a few seconds here. There it goes. Now you see this little red dot? We need to get this little red dot down to where it says LAMP server, because that's what we want to install. LAMP, meaning Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. How am I going to do that? I'm going to use the directional keys on my keyboard. The up, down, left, right keys. Yes, the directional keys. I'm going to press the down one until that little red dot gets to LAMP server. By using the space bar on my keyboard, pressing it one time, you will see a little asterisk sign go into that little red space, and now I'm going to hit enter to tell it to install that, and the installation will begin. Okay, now this is the part where I said that we were going to create a password. I'm using a very simple password. Of course, you would use something that was a little bit more secure. I put in the password and hit enter. It's going to ask me to repeat that, and I'm going to repeat that, and I'm going to hit enter, and it will continue on with the install. Okay, great. The install is now complete. Now we need to test this, okay? But before we test it, I want to show you something. Remember when I went into the var folder and looked to see if the www was there and it wasn't? Now let me bring it up, and if you look inside the var directory, there is the www directory. It has now been created. Let's make sure that this all went well. Let's bring up Firefox, and I'm going to just type in here HTTP local host and hit enter. And it says it works. Great. I'm going to go ahead and just minimize that. Okay. Now what we need to do is move on to step 2 or task 2. Let's move that down to task 2. Here we go. Now what we need to do is create info.php file in directory www. You know that directory was just created, right? So great. Then we're going to create a PHP function in the info.php file. We're going to also restart the Apache 2 server, and then we're going to check to see if this works by using localhost /info.php. Let's make that happen. Let's bring up our Linux. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create that file inside of the www folder. Now, what I want to do is also show you, here's the www folder. Let's double click and look what's inside of there already. We know that we have an index.html file in there, but there is no file in there called info.php, right? Let's make that happen in the command line. We are going to use sudo, sudo, space gedit. So now we are calling upon a program called gedit. By saying /var, we're telling it to look in the var directory, /www to look inside the www directory that's inside of the var directory, and then /info.php, which means that with using gedit text editor, you are going to make a file called info.php, and that file will be created and saved in a directory called www. You will find that directory called www inside the directory known as var. All right, so let's go ahead and hit enter and see what happens. Voila, we have the gedit text tool right here in front of us, ready for us to create the function inside of this info.php file. Look right here, it's already been named and it knows the path to go to where it's going to be saved. All right. Let's create that PHP function. First off, I'm going to do the less than sign, question mark, PHP space, question mark, greater than sign. I'm then going to break this up a little bit and make a little bit of a space between, okay? Now, in between this space, I'm going to make the PHP function, PHP info, then the function symbols, and end it off with the semicolon. Now, this has been created. I need to save it, so I'm just going to simply click on save. So it's been saved. Let's go ahead and close gedit by clicking the X. Let's look inside the www directory and see what's in there. Voila, it's in there, info.php. Now we need to test this. Let's go back to Firefox. See how we have localhost here already? What we're going to do is type in info.php, and then we're going to hit enter, right? Let's hit it. Wait a minute, that's not what I was expecting. Of course not. I did that on purpose. I just wanted to show you what you might see if you didn't do a certain step. If you remember, I'm just going to minimize this a little bit, and I'm going to minimize this as well. Remember that we said that we were going to create the PHP function inside of info.php file, but then the next thing was restart the Apache 2 server. We didn't restart that. We jumped straight over to here and tried to see if it worked, and it didn't work. And that's what I wanted to show you, what you may see if it doesn't work, if you don't do the steps in order that they're supposed to be done. So now let's restart the Apache server by doing sudo space / etc /init .d / Apache 2 space restart and hit enter. Now it's going to tell you waiting. It says okay now, and it's ready to go. So now let's go back to Firefox, and we have the info in here, right? The info.php. I'm just going to go ahead and click enter and see what happens. There we go. Now, this is what normally would have happened. This is the function that I'm calling from inside of that info.php. And that was a nice way to test to make sure that everything was working properly. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Now that we have done that, it is time for us to move on to the next step, the third task. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and minimize this and then move this down to the third task. In the third task, it tells us that we are going to be installing PHP Myadmin. We're going to pick Apache 2. We're going to put in passwords. We're going to restart Apache 2 server. We're going to test the PHP Myadmin by using localhost PHP Myadmin. We're going to name and create a database. Let's go and make that happen right now. Bring up Linux. So what we're going to do is use the power of sudo again. Sudo space apt-get apt-get install. Install what? I want you to install PHP Myadmin. Hit enter, and it's going to go off and begin the process of installing. Asking me if it's okay, I'm going to press the Y and hit enter, and it will continue on with the install process. Now, as you see, it brings up the program, and it already has a red dot next to Apache 2, but I still have to tell it to select it. So I'm going to use the space bar on my keyboard and press the space bar. See the little asterisk sign that is there? Now I can hit enter, and it will go ahead and install it, or continue to install, or complete the install of the PHP Myadmin. All right. Okay, now it gets to this part of the installation. It's already on yes to configure the database. We want it to be there. We're just going to go ahead and hit enter. Now it's going to ask for the administrative password. I'm just creating a very simple password. Again, you're not going to want to do simple passwords. You're going to want to do something that's a little bit more sensible for security reasons. And I'm just confirming some things here. Same, just putting the passwords in. I'm keeping mine very simple again. When you do yours, you may want to be a little more cryptic with your passwords for security reasons. Okay, so I put that in there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to restart my server again. And how did I do that last time? Sudo sudo space /etc /init.d / Apache 2 restart. And I hit enter. It says waiting. It says okay. And now it has restarted. Now that I'm going to do that, I need Firefox again. I'm going to bring Firefox up, right? And I'm just going to modify this a little bit. I'm going to click in front of the first P and take away the dot and the info so it just says PHP. Then I'm going to click in front of the last P and type in Myadmin. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and it brings me to where I want it to be. Now I'm going to put in the username. Username is root, so ROOT. I'm going to put in the password that I created. And now I'm going to click on go. It's going to ask me if I want Firefox to remember it. I'm just going to tell it no, not now. Now here goes PHP admin. Look at this section right here, create new database. In here, I'm just going to name it dark matter. Okay, so the name of my database is dark matter. I will click create. You see this little green check mark, database dark matter has been created. That is awesome. So I know that that part is done and we finished task 3. So now it's time to move on to task 4. So let's move on to task 4. Now we're going to just click this and go to task 4. And now that we're on task 4, it tells us that we will be going to WordPress.org and downloading the WordPress tar file. We'll be picking, oops, you know what? I made a mistake. This one I'm going to delete. Here we go. This is the real task 4. We're going to be going to WordPress.org to download WordPress tar file. We're going to unzip it and move it to the desktop. We're going to start the GUI for root. We're also going to place the folder inside the www directory. We're going to start WordPress. We're going to change the w-config.php file. We're going to copy and paste. We're going to copy and paste that one. All right. So that is always good when you have that kind of thing happen, right? Puts a little bit of smiles on your face. In any case, let's go ahead and move on and make this happen. So we bring up Linux. I'm going to go ahead and minimize, or no, I don't actually need to minimize. What I need to do is go to WordPress.org and I'm going to click on download WordPress. And right now it's 3.0.3. So I'm going to just click on download. Now I'm going to look for the tar file, which is right here. I'm going to click that. I'm going to choose the save file, and this will save it into the download directory on my Ubuntu operating system. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And I don't need WordPress anymore, so I'm going to just close that page. And I think I'll click the plus sign on Firefox to open up a new tab to have something fresh there. Although, you know what, I could just use this one, so I think I'll just use this one right here. All right, so I'm going to minimize that. Now let's look inside of places, downloads, and here goes my tar file. I'm going to right click it and then choose to extract here. And now that I've extracted it here, I'm just going to take this WordPress file and just drop it right there on the desktop. This tar file, I'm just going to select it and delete it. I don't need it anymore and close the download directory. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call upon the power of root, but I'm going to call upon a graphical use of root, and I'm going to show you how to do that. What you do is you type in gk sudo sudo space nautilus nautils, I believe, and hit enter. And now that is going to call upon the power of the graphical root. And here we are inside of root, but it's a graphical representation of it. And this is going to be cool and fun, right? Now, what we need to do is, now that we're inside of root, you see how it has the file system right here? I'm going to double click on the file system. I'm going to navigate, look for var, and double click that. And now here goes the www file, right? Now remember that I already have it open here. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this because I don't need that one open. I'm going to stay inside of the graphical root. Now here goes the www file, and I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what I'm going to do is take WordPress and I'm going to drag it over into that folder, okay, into that directory. Now I'm going to go back to Firefox, and I'm just going to clear all of this out of here. Okay. All the way down until it says right there, localhost. And now I'm going to type in WordPress and click enter. It's going to take me to the WordPress, and I'm going to click create a configuration file. All right. Now I'm going to click on let's go, and it's giving me some warnings about the WP config. Don't worry about it. No big deal. You'll see here in a moment. We're going to click on let's go. Now right here, we need to read and look at what we need to do. Database name. What did we name it? I named mine's Dark Matter. Username. Username is root. Password. I don't care if anybody can see it. It's supposed to be simple. Of course, if I was doing this for real, it wouldn't be that easy, right? So in any case, I'm now going to hit submit. Now that I hit submit, it's going to say, sorry, but I can't write to the wp-config.php file. And it wants me to copy everything that's inside of here and paste it into a file in the WordPress folder that is called wp-config.php. Let's see what that means. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. Now, if I go inside the WordPress folder that we dragged in, I'm going to go inside of there and look, and here is a file called wp-config-sample.php. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and drag it out to the desktop. Okay. Now that I dragged it out to the desktop, I'm going to right click it and choose rename. And now I'm going to click in front of the .php, and I'm going to backspace and just clear out sample and the dash so that it says wp-config.php. Okay. Now I'm going to double click on it to open it up, and it opens up in gedit. I'm now going to select everything that's in this file. All right. Make sure that all of it's highlighted, right? And I'm going to hit delete. Now this has been completely cleaned out, right? I'm going to go back to Word or to Firefox where this message is, where it says copy this and paste it into where? The wp-config.php file. And that's the one that we basically just created. So I'm going to take this and highlight all of it, right? Now that it's all been highlighted, I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy, minimize this down inside of the file that we just deleted everything inside of gedit. It's blinking. I'm going to click inside of there. I'm going to right click and choose paste. All right. Then I'm just going to click save. Once it's been saved, I can close it and it's been closed out. I'm just going to double click it again to make sure that it actually is there. It is. I'm going to hit X to close it out again. I'm now going to drag this back into the folder and just drop it in there. So the sample one is still there, and also now this new one is there that we just created from the sample. These ones that are on the outside, I don't need them anymore. So I'm going to select the folder, delete it, select this file and delete it. I'm also going to just minimize the root and go back to Firefox and then click on run the install right here. Now we're going to run the install. Now look, it goes to WordPress, and the reason it was able to go forward is because of what we just did with that file. I'm going to name the blog or name the site, and I'm going to name it Dark Space Matter. All right. Admin will be the username, and we could put the password in here. All right. And it is a weak password. Again, I'm just doing this just to be quick. And we need to put in an email. So I'm just going to put in Brown at bbtas.com. And I'm going to take away this check mark where it says allow my site to appear in search engines. I don't want that. I'm just going to be developing stuff right here inside of Linux, inside of Ubuntu. I'm going to take away that check mark, and then I'm going to click install WordPress. I don't need Firefox to remember anything, so I'm just going to clear that off. Now it brings us here, success. I'm going to click on login. And what was the name? Admin, right? So admin, A-D-M-I-N, put in the password, and I'm going to click login. Get rid of that. And here we are. We are inside the dashboard, inside of what? Inside of WordPress. Awesome. Let's go ahead and click Dark Matter here to look at. And here goes the WordPress blog. Yes, everything is there. You can go here to Appearances and go to the editor. And once we get into the editor, look at this. You got all your PHP files and your WordPress files. Now you can go in there and start manipulating, changing, creating whatever you want, creating your own themes, maybe even selling them, maybe even making money, whatever. But the thing is everything that I just did was free. Right down to the video you're watching right now. You gotta love that, right? Now, look at how much stuff we just did in the command line. Look at how great that was. You see how that power is and how easy it was. Once we broke it down into tasks, right? We started off here and we got our different tasks. Task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4. You see how easy it was. It's all about just wrapping your mind around it. Don't sweat it so much. I'm new to this. I don't even know Linux. All right. Like I said, I come from the world of Windows, and it took me some time to kind of get used to it, but I'm getting used to this and I'm having fun doing it. I hope that you had an awesome time with me. Remember, if you like what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button. That is the encouragement that I'm looking for. Hit the subscribe button so I know that you are enjoying the efforts that I am putting forth. Thank you so much for checking me out. Remember, AG2G, and may God bless. Bye-bye.